So I've got The Darkest Hour, starring Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill, and apparently it's the season of the super makeup-heavy performances because we had Woody Harrelson in LBJ, James Franco in The Disaster Artist, and now Gary Oldman in The Darkest Hour. So he's got full prosthetic makeup on.
Who's he playing?
Winston Churchill,
Oh,
like the
gotcha.
Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and you can barely recognize him. Like maybe the eyes, you're like, oh, those are Gary Oldman eyes, but it's a very transformative performance. But my qualm with it is they put him in this big old fat suit, and then he walks around like someone who's maybe Gary Oldman's weight. And Winston Churchill was a big dude at that point.
Yeah.
It takes place during his second run as Prime Minister, so during World War II. And that's the other thing. I'm like, oh, we just had a movie about the events of this. We had Dunkirk earlier this year, which heavily figures into the events that happened during The Darkest Hour. So it's like, well, that's interesting timing. Also coming out this weekend is The Crown Season 2, which has John Lithgow as Winston Churchill. So you're faced with like a Churchill choice.
And he does a great job.
And he does a great job. He's won awards for that. But Gary Oldman also does a great job. But I'm like, man, I feel like we're hitting like a World War II, like this particular amount of time saturation point. Because again, how many movies are going to come out like this? How many movies have already come out about this era? Like, how much more can we mine this? And also, I just felt like really sad and depressed watching it because I wake up every day and I'm like, we are on the brink of World War III. Where's our Winston Churchill? Like, where are our figures to lead us out of these dark hours? Oh, God, we're doomed. So that's how I felt going into and leaving the film. I don't think that's how it was supposed to make me feel, but that's just kind of the world we're living in right now. So he's very good in it. It's actually strangely like a lighter performance than I've seen as Churchill before. And it's tough because he has to, you have to do the Churchill like accent and diction, and he's quasi unintelligible some of the time, but then it's also a film, so you have to make him intelligible to the audience. So it's this weird kind of balance of, the famous speeches and Winston Churchill's such a great orator. And so all of that, of course, is in the movie.
Like, how British can you be when you're playing a Brit?
Yeah, how
States.
old school, jowly fat man British can you get? With a cigar in your mouth the whole time. Yeah. So it was interesting. It's definitely Oscar bait. Like, let's be honest. The director Joe Wright did Atonement and the Pride and Prejudice remake and Anna Karenina. So he likes period pieces. He knows his stuff with this. Gary Oldman's a great actor. Yep. I think it's a great role for him. But again, I was a little like, well, do we need this film right now? Do we need another Winston Churchill story?
Yeah. Did it carry? That's the thing.
Right. And I think, it's certainly timely in a sense, but I didn't feel it was like the most original thing in the world because, again, we've tread over this a bunch of times. It was interesting to see him be a little lighter, like crack some jokes and see kind of the lighter side of Churchill. But and then, of course, it also gets really dark and depressing and, all the weight of the world is on his shoulders. So they balanced that very well. I give them credit for that. And, there's some great cinematography. All the set dressings and art is amazing. So if you like period pieces, again, this is for you. But yeah, I feel like we've tread over this territory a lot before. And I've also said this before. I'm getting a little tired of these kind of like white man savior films. I was like, I get it. Yeah. You're also mirroring history because those have been our political leaders till now. But like, can we start looking to other stories?
Yeah, where's the Nelson Mandela biopic? Or
they had one of those. Like,
did they already?
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? You don't remember. It was like a blip.
Yeah.
I want to say it was Morgan Freeman, but that might just be. I think it was just called Mandela, and it came out like years ago. But that's the thing; it's like, why are we featuring? Yes, I get it; they're super important historical figures, and again, they are timely now. But I'd be interested in seeing kind of some of the lesser known stories of these eras if we're going to keep going over this period of time. So I'm going to give it 3.7 out of 5.
And what was it called again?
Darkest Hour.
Okay, and this is again about Winston Churchill
during World War II. So his second run as Prime Minister. And again, if you're going to watch The Crown this weekend, like, just know you're going to be on overload of... and
cool. Well, we'll have to make sure we watch it at some point in our lives. You've got a second movie today, Dana Han-Klein, correct?
I do, yes. So somehow we get our second parent-themed Christmas movie of the year, because we already had a Bad Moms Christmas. Daddy's Home Too. And it's also Christmas themed. And this movie made me really upset. Like, I kind of been on the fence about seeing it, and then I saw that it was supposed to be so bad, and I was like, all right, what's so bad about this? I get why it's so bad. I think Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell make a really good on-screen comedy duo. They're both very funny together. I really enjoyed The Other Guys, which they were like the cops together a while ago, and so I was like, all right. And I saw the first Daddy's Home, and it was mediocre, but it was not as bad as this. And something about Daddy's Home 2 just does not gel. So this one has Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell kind of co-parenting in peace. The whole premise is like Will Ferrell's the stepdad to Mark Wahlberg's kids, and then it gets more mixed and complicated because of his relationships. And so here's where the issues begin. So they invite their fathers for Christmas, and so John Lithgow plays Will Ferrell's father, and it was such a good casting choice. Will Ferrell's this like really kind of bland, nice guy in it, and like probably overly affectionate and just like super sweet, like nice dude. And so John Lithgow was like perfect at mirroring that, and they're
totally
like they were a little too lovey-dovey. And I think that's like one of the jokes of the film. They mouth kiss, which I find that so odd for families. I'm sorry, like I just find it really weird. And I think a lot of people do too, which is where the humor in that part comes from. So that I was like, great casting choice, like good dynamic there. And then here's where it made me really upset. They cast Mel Gibson as Mark Wahlberg's father. Why are we letting Mel Gibson be in things? Like, I am sorry. I'm not a forgive and forget person. And, like, I get it. It's a Christmas movie, so Jewish people aren't exactly the target audience for it.
Right.
But, like, can we really? I'm actually, like, legitimately upset by Mel Gibson being in this film because I'm so sick of, actors and politicians especially getting away with bad behavior like this, behavior, and then getting kind of carte blanche, like being allowed back into our good graces. And I'm like, what is happening here? Like those types of beliefs don't change overnight. Like,
sure.
So I like immediately was just like, I am not into this. And then of course he plays this kind of crass, crude, Mark Wahlberg's character is already that, and he's the genesis of that. So he's super inappropriate and like crass. I was like, all right, well, in that sense, you did a good job casting him, probably, because we already don't particularly, a lot of us at least don't particularly love Mel Gibson.
Say, the thing about his character is he's the guy you hate.
Right. And he's
so
supposed
you would
to
think
be.
That would be perfect.
Right. But you're also supposed to want them to reconcile and be, father-son bonding. And I was like, I don't care, get rid of him.
Yeah.
But then this is what really... And then what they did with his character really pissed me off. And these are kind of spoilers, but I hope nobody goes to see this movie, so I don't really care. Usually I care, don't care. So there's this whole bit about, Mel Gibson encourages his grandson in it to, like, put mistletoe up over his, the grandson has his first crush and they're little kids. And he's like, yeah, go put mistletoe up over there, plant a kiss on her and smack her on the bottom. I was like,
wow,
this is 2017.
Whoa.
Jokes like that are I'm not okay with it. Like, jokes like that are the reason that the Time Person of the Year is the silence breakers on sexual harassment. Like, don't encourage that sort of behavior in kids, because out there somewhere a real dad, like, is encouraging that behavior, and that's why we have the problems we have today.
I'm sure if this was filmed right now, they would have been like, yeah, we're going to take that line out.
And it's a whole, like, it's a series of jokes. I'm like, why did they think this was okay? Then let's add on top of that a little bit of gun stuff. Like, a kid accidentally shoots someone, and I'm like, this is not the year for this. Like, this is not okay. This is probably never okay. But I don't find it funny anymore, right?
Sure.
And not only on top of that, the rest of the jokes aren't that funny at all. It's all recycled. It's like, there's some slapstick stuff that you laugh at in the moment, and you're like, anyone could have done this. So I was just so put off by the tastelessness of it. And I'm okay with, like, gross humor. I don't mind any of that stuff. But this for some reason just was, like, not rubbing me the right way.
Sure.
And on top of that, I was like, I don't find redeeming qualities in this film. So it was unnecessary. It was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, I'm not big on Christmas movies, so this is certainly not helping that. So because of their poor choices, I'm going to give them a 1 out of 5.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okay, well, then I'm definitely not going to see it.
Yeah, don't rent it, don't
Done.
see it, don't support. I'm sorry, but, like, don't support it. It's not
Sure.
good. Don't encourage better filmmaking than that.
There you go.